One machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men. No machine can do the work of one extraordinary man. Good evening, MBA 06, MBA 07, MBA HR 01, MBA BA 01, EMBA 01, alumni, faculty members, and other participants. On behalf of the Industry Interaction Cell, I, Raveen Kumar, along with Mr. Subhav Dubey, welcome you all to the 6th edition of Annual HR Conclave of IIM Amritsar, Yukti. The 6th edition of Yukti is a horizon for the budding managers of IIM Amritsar to meet the dignitaries from industry who have the expertise in domain of HR and have put forth exemplary stride in building the brand of their organizations. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Anveshi Sharma to present before us the snapshot of IIM Amritsar.
Thank you so much, Raveen. Just give me a second to share my screen, please. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Anveshi.
Good evening, one and all present today. It is a matter of great honor to present before you a glimpse about IIM Amritsar and its journey in the last year. The Indian Institute of Management, Amritsar, is the 15th IIM set up by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. IIM Amritsar was under the mentorship of IIM Kozhikode until our first director joined office. On 6th August 2015, IIM Amritsar inducted its first batch of MBA 01. A new addition to the ever-increasing laurels of IIM Amritsar is the CFA Institute University Affiliation Program. These students benefit from the enriching experience offered by the Holy City. The institute is currently located in the Punjab Institute of Technology building and will soon have its permanent campus. The pedagogy is same as practiced by the other members of the prestigious IIM fraternity. We have state-of-the-art IT-enabled classrooms and a digital library. Our faculties are highly qualified from the institutions like IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta, IIM Indore, XLRI, MDI Gurgaon, IIFT Delhi, IRMA, etc. We have the largest batch size amongst all the 3G IIMs. Batch MBA 06 has 212 students, and batch MBA 07, MBA HR 01, and MBA BA 01 have cumulatively 268 students. Besides getting to learn from the qualified faculty, industry leaders, the students learn by involving themselves in various clubs and committees. And the tireless efforts of our students have resulted in winning many corporate competitions and B-school competitions. For example, we have national winners of MI Summit 2.0. We have national finalists of 1+ET Prime Challenge. We have national finalists of Tata Crucible, the campus quiz. We have national winners of Kratos 20 IFD. We have the national winners of HCL Ultimate Marketing Challenge. And we have the second runner-up of National Ultimate Startup Challenge. Now I would like to take you through the timelines which happened in the last year. On 30th June 20, we inducted MBA 06. On 8th and 9th August, we had Yukti, the annual HR conclave. On 3rd and 4th October, we have Paripeksha, the annual marketing and finance conclave. On 1st November 20, we introduced eMBA. On 9th and 10th January 21, we had Sankshetra 20, the annual strategy and operations conclave. On 1st March 21, MBA 06 successfully completed their 100% placements. On 13th and 12th March, we had Arunya 5.0, the annual management, cultural and sports fest of IIM Amritsar. On 16th March, we announced the postdoctoral fellowship program. On 26th May, IIM Amritsar celebrated the final placements of MBA 05 batch. On 5th July, we inducted MBA 07, MBA 01 BA, and HR batches. From the month of August 21 to January 22, we will have these 4 conclaves and 1 annual leadership summit. In order to meet the increasing talent demands of the industry, IIM Amritsar has introduced 3 new courses, namely MBA HR, MBA BA, and eMBA. Even with the total of 212 students MBA 06 in the MBA 06 batch, IIM Amritsar was one of the first few IIMs to achieve 100% placements in the month of March itself. where we saw the number of first-time recruiters increase to 94 and the total number of recruiters increased by more than 100%. The stats for the final placements are there on your screen. We had 146 students, six of the students got PPOs. We had a total of 88 recruiters visiting us, and the maximum CTC was 18.16 LPA. The batch profiles of MBA 06 are there on your screen. The senior and as well as the junior batch belongs to varied work experience background, promoting a healthy mix of academic as well as professional diversities. IIM Amritsar is a fully student-driven campus, and student being responsible for majority of its activities. As you can see on your screen, the placements calendar for the coming placement year. The pre-placement talks will start from the month of September till November. The summer internship processes will begin from the month of October, and the final placements process will begin from the month of October as well. Student committees are an integral part of IIM Amritsar, holding various responsibilities. At IIM Amritsar, we have 9 committees, namely Placements Committee, Alumni Committee, Students Council, Cultural Committee, Sports Committee, Media and Public Relations Cell, Merchandising and Sponsorship Committee, Industry Interaction Cell, and Hostel and Mess Committee. Shouldering the responsibility of the holistic development of the students of the IIM Amritsar, we have academic as well as non-academic interest groups. The academic interest groups are shown on your screen: Prithvi, the HR Club, Center for Entrepreneurship, Finance and Economics Club, Analytics and Business Computing Club, Stratagem for Strategy, Opera Zeal, the Operations Club, and Marco Philic, the Marketing Club. The non-academic groups of IIM Amritsar are 50mm, the Photography Club, Sankalp, the CSR Club, Prep Club, the Preparatory Club, and Vani, the Elocution Club. IIM Amritsar has been growing by leaps and bounds since its inception in 2015. The progress is possible because of the talented student and the efficient professors and rich industry connects. The remarkable climb up the ladder has been possible because of the constant support from the industry. And we wish to continue this long and flourishing relationship in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anveshi. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Krishna Prasad V and Mr. Akshay Kumar PD from MBA 07 batch to give a short presentation on today's theme.
Am I audible?
Yes, Krishna, you are audible.
Am I audible?
Thank you.
Yes, Akshay, you are audible.
And my screen is also visible, right?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Good evening. This is our first presentation in front of such an esteemed gathering, and we are here to share our thoughts on reimagining HR in the era of technology. HR is indeed an abstract topic, but the only thing constant across companies and domains all over the world is that majority of employees have at least one story to tell to anybody who would half listen to them about their company's HR mismanagement. Is automation the right way to go? Here's our 2 cents on the topic. We'd like to start off by taking some seconds to enumerate the changes which HR as a study went through to get a better perspective of where we came from. The 1900s were the natal phase of HR with the coming of sociologists like Marx and Weber and proto-theorems and the concept of employee welfare coming into being. The 20s through 50s was a revolutionary period where the term human capital was coined. People like Herzberg brought about newer concepts to HR management during the 60s through 80s. And from then, the world changed into a service-centric pattern, and HR had to shift its attention to worker-centric instead of a process-centric approach. The recent decades saw unprecedented technological changes with the popularity of data sciences. COVID-19 has been a revealing time for HR managers as they faced a lot of problems and came up with surprisingly robust solutions. The fully artificially intelligent model had failed during the pandemic times, according to various HR professionals we talked to, and they all claim that the AI is not ready yet. Also, it made life a bit more difficult for students of a well-connected city like Amritsar, as HR started recruiting online, removing all the geographical barriers. Workforce planning metrics also had to be adjusted from the conventional methods to fit into the changing dimensions as well. And now we have to address the elephant in the room. What the various challenges faced by human resource managers are, And the first and foremost would be talent gap. We can summarize without much explanation that employers are simply not finding the right talent for their jobs. The fact that the pandemic had put the financial situations of a lot of companies in jeopardy also means that the HR cannot hire freely. According to a 2020 survey conducted by McKinsey & Co., nearly 87% of managers and executives are either currently experiencing talent gap or expect to be experiencing them in the near future. Now, we'll be addressing the solutions to these issues through technology in the subsequent slides. The lack of a culture of continuous learning goes hand in hand with the skill gap issue, in a way that both of them are issues which are to be solved by constant upskilling or reskilling. Employees either aren't willing to or just don't get enough opportunities to upskill or reskill. According to a recent survey conducted by Tiny Pulse, 86% of millennials say that they would stay in their current job if they got an opportunity to reskill. Diversity management, mental health issues, as well as sustaining the organizational culture are three of the relatively newer issues which are being faced by the HR. These are gaining relevance day after day, with employee well-being taking the helm as the most important factor in HR management. Reskilling within HR is an issue which is less addressed in the public, but which we believe is the most pressing issue pertaining to this particular topic. The problem lies in the fact that HR development isn't a direct money-making activity, and it works well within the funds allocated to it. Now, we look at the various betterments that technology has brought about and the technological solutions to these issues with Akshay.
As we saw briefly from the timeline, technology has made its mark and completely revolutionized the field of human resource management and development. We have divided the technology and tools into three for proper analysis. The first one is sourcing and pre-assessment tools. Technology is much better than humans when it comes to processing people for their hard skills, since it can reduce the cumbersome nature of the process. There are tools like we listed here, and then Entelo, for example, which is a recruiting partner for companies such as PayPal. These are tools which can collate data from all the social media and other public platforms and present them all to the table of an HR manager. This will obviously make the recruitment process easier for them. Then there are onboarding, engagement, and talent management tools. These tools crunch the behavioral data of employees and help in the smooth onboarding and talent management. Apart from the mentioned tools, there are tools like Kissflow and Bamboo HR, which are essentially visualization tools. There are also tools which make compliance super easy and effective, which are really essential for smooth operations. Cloud-based data collection has also gained paramount importance. Between them and big data players, we have players like Oyster and Remote. These are tools which are present in all these domains, but hasn't entered the big data field quite yet. And then finally, on top of the pyramid, we have big data players like Visia, which is currently valued at $1 billion. They are essentially integrators, with the science of data being more and more decentralized. These are essentially the future, with copylefted and permissive programming dominating almost every field. It all comes down to who gets access to it and how they use it, and there will be users. The future of technology lies here, is what we believe. This slide is just a summary and compartmentalization of the various tasks these tools do to various domains of HR. As we saw in slide 5, there are issues regarding talent gap and lack of a continuous cycle of learning. There are simple and effective tools for learning, as we all know, like say Udemy or Coursera. There are companies which gives free access to resources in e-learning platforms to bridge the skill gap and make the employees continue to work on their learning and development cycle. They are adopting various methods such as pairing employees to mentors to encourage knowledge transfer, offering personalized programs, as well as creating a desire to learn and improve. The advent of chatbots, though effective in a limited sense of the way, has helped save a lot of time and improve the interconnectivity of departments. Organizational development from a holistic view can be achieved by big data analytics and intermediate players. The point in the slide brings about the question, what of the moderately skilled, not well paid majority of the workforce? They are the ones who are impacted by the technology boom the most. Humans want to be always be in control, and technology has more or less taken that luxury away from them, at least in the mid-level management. For companies, however, this has only helped in the streamlining of their hierarchy. As you can see from this blob, these are the two of the major backlashes the e-commerce giant faced in quite recent years. One of them is their logistics debacle, wherein their drivers were fired by AI for non-achievement of targets. The AI didn't take into consideration what goes in, weather, traffic, personal issues, etc. And the news article shows the plight of a driver who was simply fired by an AI. The concept of empathy or newer factors being taken into consideration is lacked by machines. Speaking of lack of newer factors, overemphasis of the older scenario is what the second news clip is all about. The same e-com giant used an AI to hire employees, and what they picked on was the lack of historical data on women working in these fields. Data analytics is a prediction of what will happen in the future based on what has happened in the past, and factors such as diversity, culture, feelings, or even a change in habit by a stimulus is not being considered by these tools. Krishna will be taking you through the rest of the presentation.
It all boils down to the Amazon problem. There are situations which cannot be assessed by data alone. Human elements like empathy, as Akshay mentioned, is lacked by these tools. There's a right mix of percent of US employees look forward to coming to work compared to the 84% of those recognized as the best companies to work for. A survey conducted by Fortune. And to address this problem or to mitigate it to some extent, the AI-based model will almost certainly not be the right way to go. As Akshay mentioned in passing, and as we saw from slide 5, addressing mental health is one of the pressing issues faced by companies and almost every single enterprise in the world. It is true that there are technologies which help people deal with such issues, and a lot of companies have been implementing it. But it is shown by no less than an HBR journal that the presence of these apps isn't as effective as companies think of it to be. Less than half the employees surveyed by World Happiness Report said that they're happy with their jobs. As living, breathing human beings, it is within us a yearning for a human presence. Now imagine a scenario when there is an AI to chat with these people when they need somebody to talk to. The concept of intelligent automation is here to stay. According to India CSR, HR leaders should look for methods of intelligent automation which allows machines to incorporate, comprehend, and study on their own. However, this has to be seen as the means for the HR team to not waste on non-value-added activities and add more time in activities such as employee engagement, cultural appreciation, etc. Those are the activities which drives a company. People with more analytical skills are being preferred for the aforementioned task of aiding automation, as you can see from the start. However, as we have seen before, there are a lot of areas where the silicon giants cannot nudge itself in, most of which we have seen in the previous slides. For instance, imagine a scenario of sexual misconduct in the workplace. What constitutes a sexual misconduct? Is it an explicit seeking of sexual favors? Or is there something to read between the lines? And how can a machine judge that? When I talked to some people and said that I would like to major in HR in my second year, they all said that it is not the way to go, that the machines will replace it, that I'll be unemployed after graduation. I consider those people along the same lines of people who said the same thing during the Industrial Revolution, the World War advancements, the Cold War tech boom, the LPG of 1991, and the subsequent IT boom. Jobs in every single field will stay as long as people are willing to update, evolve, reskill, and see technology as an aid and not a hindrance. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna and Akshay, for introducing the theme of the conclave. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce the speaker of today's event. Our first guest for the day and the moderator for today's panel discussion is Mr. Sumit Taneja. Mr. Sumit Taneja is the Vice President and Global Rewards Head of Wipro. He is an experienced human resources leader and has extensive experience in areas of talent management, talent acquisition, learning and development, organization development, business partnering, rewards, and international HR. He has a keen interest in behavioral science and spirituality. He enjoys connecting his diverse experience and building insights to enable business outcomes. Mr. Sumit Taneja is a proud alumnus of Symbiosis Institute of Business Management.
Yeah. So next we have Mr. Sudhir. Mr. Sudhir is the Executive Director, Group CHRO at Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited. He is a seasoned HR professional with more than 20 years of experience in human resources function. He is a skilled strategic human resource management and developing individual talent and building teams through coaching, mentoring, and individual development programs. He is a PCC certified coach by the International Coach Federation, having 5,000 plus coaching hours experience. He is a facilitator issued by the Inside Out Development. He is a strategic HR issued by the Indian School of Business and a diploma in a transactional analysis from the South Asian Association of the Transactional Analysis. Mr. Sudhidhar is an alumnus of XLRI Jamshedpur and holds a degree in industrial engineering from the National Institute of Engineering.
The next speaker for today's event is Dr. Kiran Pendyada. Dr. Kiran is currently the head of Human Resources, Western Digital India, a Fortune 500 high technology data storage solutions company. She is also the governing body member on several higher education institutions, deemed universities, and on United Way, Hyderabad, a not-for-profit for impact organization. She was the head for Center of Excellence at the ISB Center for Leadership Innovation and Leadership Innovation and Change. She was former chairman of AmCham, ISTD, IESA, and an executive member of NHRD, HYSEA, CII-HR, CII-IWN committees. She has successfully straddled diverse roles in teaching, training, human resource development, consulting, quality, and technical writing. Dr. Kiran has an educational background in management, law, psychology, and has an overall experience of more than 25 years. Our guests will be joining shortly, so we request you to kindly wait for a couple of minutes.
As per Miss Renee West, you can have the best strategy and the best building in the world, but if you don't have the hearts and the minds of the people who work with you, none of it comes to life. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected Students Affairs Chairperson, our esteemed guest, faculty member, the students of the Indian Institute of Management Amritsar, alumni, and the other participants. I, Subhav Dubey, would like to welcome all of you to the 6th edition of the Yukti, the annual HR Conclave of IIM Amritsar. Learning has always been the force that powers paddle of success. And what could be better platform for the brightest mind to come together and enrich the students with their epitome of experiences? Management is the efficiency in climbing the ladder of success. Leadership determines whether the ladder is leaning against the wall. We are fortunate to have such leader to guide us. Our Students Affairs Chairperson, Professor Chetan Chitra. I would now request you, sir, to kindly address this Augustus gathering.
Yes, thank you, Subhav. And I welcome everyone, all the students, faculty members, and especially our esteemed guests for today evening to this 6th edition of Yukti, our HR Conclave. And Yukti is the first conclave that we have in the academic calendar. And this academic calendar is indeed a special one for us because in this year, we are launching our MBA in HR, Human Resource Management program. In addition to, of course, our MBA in Business Analytics and the EMBA program. So welcome to the first batches of these programs. And of course, our regular MBA general program is always there, right? So in that sense, this year is a special one. And we look forward to an exciting year ahead filled with conclaves like this. The topic of today's discussion, as you guys know, is reimagining HR in the era of technology, right? And so in the last 1 year, thanks to the pandemic, we have technology seeping into our organizations with all its might. And in some sense, we as IIM Amritsar were also affected by it. So last year, we had about 70% of our classes in the online mode. This year, we are still in the online mode, right? When I say this year, I mean this academic year. Right? So technology has come in. And as a teacher, I'm looking forward to this particular discussion because, you know, in an online classroom, the whole experience is new to both the teachers as well as the students. Right? You try to establish that human connect. A classroom is a place where you do a human connect, and unfortunately, when the online mode started, we all were struggling, both the students and the teachers. Right? And I'm not sure. We experimented and we tried our best to have that human connect in the classroom. Imagine building effective connected organizations in a technology intermediated environment, right? And that's the reason why I hope as a teacher also I would get some tips from the discussion that ensues in the next couple of hours. Also, I mean, just to one more thought that I'm not sure if this is a problem that I face as a digital immigrant, and you know, you guys, the millennials and so on and so forth, being digital natives, you have a different take on the technology intermediated organizations. Right? So it's an exciting topic, and we have a great set of panel waiting to talk to you. So as all of you, I am also looking forward to listen to them. And I welcome once again all the panelists. I thank them for sparing time from their busy schedules to, you know, to address our students, and looking forward to a great evening. Right. Over to you, Subha.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind thoughts and enlightening words. Without further ado, I would like to steer the conclave towards the discussion on the theme by introducing today's guest. Mr. Sumit Taneja, Vice President and Global Rewards Head, Wipro Limited. Mr. Sudhir, Executive Director, Group CHRO, Motilal Oswal. Ms. Kiran Pendyada, Head of Human Resources, Western Digital India. We also had Dr. Anil Kumar Mishra, CPHR magicbricks.com, and Mr. Alok Ajay Purohit, Director, Technology Hiring, United Health Group. But due to some unforeseen circumstances, they were unable to join today's discussion. The theme for today's session is Reimagining HR in the Era of Technology, and Mr. Taneja will be the moderator for today's discussion panel. I request Mr. Sumit to commence the panel discussion kindly.
Hey, thank you, Praveen. And good evening to all of you. Good evening, Kiran, and good evening, Sudhir, who are the panelists who will be doing this discussion along with me. So welcome everybody to Yukti, your annual HR conclave of IIM Amritsar, right? So the topic, and of course, what Chetan sir said, I completely echo the thought, the way the technology has become so pervasive. And of course, COVID has definitely, or the pandemic has definitely accelerated to an unimaginable pace. Not that the technology was not relevant, but but today it's in the minds of every CXO. Right? Without technology, there's no business which is talking about in terms of how do they navigate the future. And that's what's been happening. In fact, while if I look at from the industry which I come, which is the IT services, the impact of pandemic is such that that we are in the best phase of our business growth at this point of time. So you can imagine the amount of adoption which is happening at this point of time. In fact, technology has not just impacted the business part of it, who are of course the early adopters in some of the news age things, just because there is a entire commercial aspect attached to it. But technology is affected almost everybody, right? And I look at my 3.5-year-old who does a 45-minute school, but in a jargon within 3 days or 4 days has changed to Wi-Fi network. There's something wrong. I can't hear. Right? Mute. So these are the stuff which I hear from her. In fact, one of the days she said that, look, I'm in the school. She needed a ball to play because that was the game the school was playing with her at that point of time. So I can't get it, Papa, you go and get it. Right? Because she's in school, and the school definition is front of the screen. Right? So that's the impact. So this topic is very, very, very relevant. I think you'll have to mute, I think, people from Yasin. Thanks. Yeah, so the topic is very relevant, right? We are talking about reimagining HR in the era of technology, right? So that's the topic, and without taking too much of time, I think I'll put my first question. So technology has moved, of course, over a period of time from a very support role that, okay, technology can help. Now it's become a central, it's playing a central role to almost every aspect of life. So how do you see that it has impacted within the HR function? So maybe any one of you, Kiran or Sudhir, you may want to just start.
Sure. Thanks, Sumit. And once again, to all of you at IIM Amritsar, a warm, greetings to all of you. I know Amritsar is already, hot. This is more in terms of the Conclave, Yukti. And when we look at reimagining HR in the era of technology, I do not think, it has only during this recent 18 months that we are grappling with technology or the strides technology has made from a HR perspective. The journey has begun a little earlier, almost in the start of this decade or the earlier decade. We started exploring multiple tools and technology platforms to enable human resources. So when I'm talking about enabling human resources, we're talking about multiple things like automating some of our processes, operational flows, and so on, which will also, if you look at the life cycle of an employee, especially larger organizations, the scale, if you want to build in, that's the only mantra. Technology is the only way you can reach out to several thousands of employees organizations have today. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands for large organizations, especially when you're looking at organizations in the IT space, but also legacy brick and mortar companies. When you're talking about large scale organizations, even there, they will leverage technology. I mean, today, chatbot is no longer something which is surprising to anyone, because any operational one, whether it's an IT chatbot or a HR chatbot, we would welcome it because the mundane, the routine, the standardized scripts are always, you can just go to a friendly chatbot and the chatbot, you can raise a service ticket, whatever, and get the responses. So when we look at it from human resources, I think it helps us build the scale. It helps us also create more outreach in terms of the larger number of employees. And also the response times are going to be much faster, and it really erases, or obliterates the dependency on someone who needs to be there 24/7 to address an employee query. So that's where I would say technology has definitely helped, aided, supported human resources from an employee relations perspective. With that, I would look at Sudhir to add in. He's coming in from the financial industry. What has he seen in his space?
Thanks, Kiran. I think Sumit and you made it simple for me. What I see that technology is an enabler, and means it is easy to handle the people of 1,000 people, and it is difficult to handle the people of 10,000 people. Now, only thing is how you make things process way and how you enable the technology on that. Means I remember maybe 5 years before I used to tell my team that it is easy to do the things once we have 3,000 and what will happen once we are 10,000. And trust me, we built the processes during that time. And during this last 16 years, I could onboard 4,000 people without single person HR on the ground. Because that's what technology can do. And it can scale up. Because you don't have any constraints. You don't want to add manpower whenever you want to hire on board or recruit more people. Said that, I will say that see, normally an HR person, 80% of the time, what I see, they handle the processes. And maybe that we say that we are great HR people. And if I put in the time and motion studies, because I'm an industrial engineer also, I say that most of the time we handle the processes. I was working with Ram Charan, and he told me best thing that we make trains to run on the track, and we even don't know whether they are on the time or not. But the trains are running. We make them happen. The trains are running on the track. I think that's the best example. That's what we do it. But running those trains on a time, I think technology is the best thing. Now, rest of the HR, which is a core HR, handling the people, I think we need to have some emotions with the people. And there you need personal, more of EQ, understanding the person, seeing not what he is talking about, seeing his facial expression, body movements, how his legs are moving, how he is closing his body. I think those are the important things. The body says more than what he's speaking of. Maybe whether it's a coaching, counseling, understanding a person. I think technology may not be able to cope up those things. However, Zoom and those things, maybe 50-60% yes, but I still feel that meeting one-to-one person and getting that warmness out of that person and understanding that technology may not cope up.
Yeah. So, Kiran brought a point that look, chatbots yesterday were perhaps something which were a novelty. Today they've become a very common thing. Which I actually very tend to agree, because earlier it was the technology, it has become so mature and the cost has come so down that today it's very easy to actually implement, and the platforms are very, very intuitive also. Right? But the other part, of course, I agree with scale. We've seen in Wipro 200,000 people, impossible to run without the support of technology. But Sudhir, you brought in a very important point, the EQ versus what the HR and technology, how they can actually, the enabler part can happen. But you also said 80% of the jobs, to an extent, is getting done through the technology interface. But then, is it only 20%? The question which I have for you right now, so is HR becoming so simple with technology, and the human aspect is much, much lesser? How does it work? Right? Yeah.
I'm not saying what it should be. I'm saying that what it is. I may be miserably wrong also, but I what is my I'm not putting the Bible in a book, textbook in a place. I actually say that what is my experience is actually that I told you that we make trains to run, and that's the 80% of the job what we do it. I think that can be taken out the example by the technology. I'm a technological person also, and my earlier life has been in as a technology person. I say that if I had to screen a resume, why don't I screen it through that software itself? Means I can get a social tidbits of the person. Means I can find out what he's posting on Facebook, what he's doing on some of the social platforms, and what are the behaviors I want the job. Can I match with some of the interface and get those things and see that what is, means actually it's all about the behaviors. Means rest is, means if I know the person has qualified from XLRI and those premium education, I have no doubt that he has that knowledge. But then it comes on the behaviors. I can pick up the behaviors by interfacing some tools and merging it out and find out what is he's doing actually, and on the social platforms, and whether I like those behaviors. It's not liking whether those behaviors fit for the job and don't fit for the job. Say, for example, if it is a psychometric test, I can put him on the psychometric test, and the finding of the psychometric test can merge with the job and those things. I think most of the things technology can do. And trust me, we have explored it, and we are happy to see the results of it. Means how we can see this thing happening through technology, and the even efficiency is good, and there's no subjectivity of the individual, because my judgment, my values, my beliefs may be nullified there. It's a standard.
No, I absolutely agree, Sudeep. And I think that's what a lot of junior HR folks ask me, then will we have a job with AI technology? And the kind of startups today, the offerings which you see in the market, right? Even mentoring, you mentioned EQ on counseling, coaching, mentoring as a platform. They claim that interviewing also could be more non-biased, and we can also read the body language and tell you whether the person's a fit or not a fit from the culture aspect, the behavior aspect. So the question HR people ask, what is the future of the function? Will, or is it a human job still? And there is an aspect. I think that's the debate which I keep hearing from junior people, though I'm very convinced it will stay. But I'll let Kiran also maybe give her opinion on this controversy.
Absolutely, Sumit. I think there have been a lot of debates in this decade, especially on the future of work, future of workplace, and future of human resources. Because we're talking about automation, we're talking about AI, and deep learning, machine learning, taking over. I am such a huge positivist, and also based on what I have seen as trends, the technology adoption. Yes, there is a huge place for technology and tools within human resources as well, where we're referring clearly to standardization. We're looking at repeatable processes, as Sudhir also mentioned. Wherever you look at repeatability, replicability, that is where you can easily go ahead, whether it's in talent attraction or selection, as he mentioned, which is resume screening. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. Just a month ago or so, we posted for one of the positions within human resources, and we posted a job. And within a week, we were flooded with resumes. And this is for lateral hiring. This is not at an entry level. So we're referring to someone with at least 10 plus years of experience. And the number of resumes we received within a week was 4,000 plus. We were like, wow, there is no way humanly the team is going to sit down and start, screening the resumes. So what did we do? Of course, we have a tool which, given the JD, is going to do the keyword search and help us with screening the resumes and shortlist what are relevant with respect to the key job description words we have outlined. So that's where, okay, that came down to a few hundreds once we've done that. Now, within those hundreds, again, I needed a human intervention. And this is where I'm going to differ with what Sudhir just mentioned. There is also a risk or a danger if we are entirely reliant on technology. We are not yet there in terms of the AI, because if you start scanning, because he brought in a beautiful point in terms of behavior or the culture fit, and we want to understand that. I agree. That is where the psychometric tools and so on are leveraged. But just scanning the social media or trying to understand what this individual may be outside work, is replete with risks and phenomenal risks. In fact, I do not want to bring up some of the major organizations which actually got started with talent acquisition tool completely with the AI ML based, and they were forced to retract. The simple reason being it's replete with privacy concerns. Individuals are going to say, this is an erosion of my privacy. What I do outside work or what my interests are is of no business to the business concern, and you're violating privacy. So this is where I think we are now at a juncture. While on one hand, we have huge strides in technology and tools, and we want to leverage them, we also need to look at it. What are the ethics of leveraging the tool? To what extent can we leverage those? Where do we stop cross the line? And how do we start looking at the human intervention, not just through a machine? Because machine may not yet read everything in terms of the body language or the tonality and tone, and also read between the lines and understand what an individual is or how he or she reacts, which a human being, if properly trained, again, a lot of us know, we also do not make the right decisions always, or we do not find the right fits. It's all about the adequate training and sensitively looking at, and that's why we also, just to we do not look at just one individual doing the interview. We do multiple interviewers, and we do a calibration so that we're all able to put our heads together and understand, are we taking the right call if there are red flags in terms of the behavior of an individual. Now, having said that, now it's very tricky, it's very complex. It's also very tempting when technology comes in and says, oh, we have a solution for you. We have to constantly evaluate, understand what is really applicable in terms of law, in terms of the individual privacy. Where do we really take it? How far can we utilize technology and tools? And where do we have to bring in human intervention? So I am completely positive, even after another decade or two, human resources is an important practice, and you'll continue to see professionals, but the professionals' jobs are going to be different. So the future of work, or future of workplace as we refer to, or future of HR is, we're no longer going to be just looking at the mundane, routine, replicable, kind of jobs. Those can be taken over by machines or tools and technology. It's more of value added, wherein you need thought leadership, wherein you need analytics. You have data, but data is not going to be useful unless you know how to slice it, how to position it, how to read it in a given context. Every organization goes through multiple changes in its life cycle. So the kind of data which you're looking at what point of time also makes sense. At some point, you don't need attrition at all. There are points where you might consider some amount of attrition as healthy. So it all depends on the life cycle stage and what kind of talent you want to keep on board, what kind of talent you want to reskill or upskill, what kind of talent you would consider obsolete, and what kind of talent you want to attract. So all the sourcing strategies of, whether you want to borrow, which is, again, outsourcing, whether you want to buy, which is lateral hiring, or whether you want to build, which is more of, the new college grads or other hiring models where you start taking in interns and so on. So there are multiple things which haven't changed. They continue to remain evergreen. It's about the application, and that's where tools come in. I'll rest my case for now.
Yeah, no, the very valid points, Kiran. And I think I just want to extend one, because Sudhir also said that, look, a lot of efficiency, and you also mentioned about repeatable tasks which can actually bring in the efficiency. Straight example in the 80%, maybe technology can easily help. Right? So the question which is that, okay, so if as an HR function, right, if I need to transform and what they should be focusing on. So what would be those new age priorities which I need to maybe start thinking of? Because I know that the scale or the repeatable or the operational, the HR service delivery perhaps technology will take 80% of my workload, or the number, I don't want to say 80, it could be 60, it could be 70, whatever that is, but a large majority, they will take over. So what is that, the extra bandwidth which the HR team is getting now? Is it that we need to make it a very lean function, or there are places where we've ignored, we need to focus on? So what are the priorities you think with the technology aiding us? What should the HR now be focusing on?
Sumit, let me come on. See, I'll just take you back.
Yes.
We had a bullock cart in olden days, and then we started with automotives, means diesel and vehicle. And people thought that, okay, the things will change and the life will change. And then we went to electricity, and then lastly, to cut it short, we went on internet. Every stage, once we moved, the fear was that, okay, the jobs will go off. Actually, jobs have not gone off. Actually, what happened, the jobs were redefined. The competency were redefined, and the jobs increase actually, it has not reduced actually. But that is going to happen in an HR also. The job of HR will still be there, and eventually it will grow. And I read, whether I don't want to quote anything, I think by 2025, people may need more of psychological help. And that is where the HR comes in. They want somebody to go back, talk with at a job, is handled with a toxic environment, what is already on the bus right now or something. These jobs and HR will have more of things to do on the floor. But as Kiran said, the operational jobs may be taken with AI and ML and those things, and that won't add any value, because it's more of the effort, not of the much of the values. I think value jobs will be still there, and that will be more important, and there will be more maybe respectable jobs the HR will do. Not quoting again the figure of that 80% what I talked about, most of that operational process, what people keep us busy, may be going off. Means even the Kiran talked about the chat mode of handling the queries and those things that will come in. Means most of the people will have the self-reliance, self-service types wherein they will solve their own problems, and HR don't have to do those manual works. I mean, it's simple that if you, I have seen that even the government changing out that if you want to apply in a passport office, you go and fill in your details. Otherwise, the government office used to fill your details, and there used to be too much mistakes. And early, my early career, I could see that so many people we were hiring, and we used to fill in those details, and there used to be more correction. Instead of the gender mistake, horrible. Now, what do? We tell employee to fill in the details. They will do less mistake because they know their own spellings, their own genders. Hence, the error rate will reduce, actually, which is already done now. Those things will be taken out. But as Kiran said before also, when I spoke, I think the core HR is going to be more jobs. In counseling, coaching, I think still India is not so picked up than a coaching. Means I see that huge potential, what HR can add value to people. Can they sit with the people, understand what they're going through, how they can help them, ask the right questions, and help them to excel in their career, how they can move ahead. Saying those discussions, those crucial conversations, I think that would be the core of the HR in future.
So to add to that, what Sudhir has mentioned, Sumit, I think the skills which are of major importance for HR professionals as we move forward are critical thinking, problem solving, which is complex problem solving, and decision making. Now, why do I say these are really important skills? The reason being, one of the thought processes we typically have about human resources vis-a-vis business is we always look at human resources as softer That's why we say soft skills, and we look at it very, very differently. Not necessarily. Critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making are as relevant in the business as it is in the core support function of HR. Why? Let me paint a scenario. Now, let us look at an organization. I can actually share a case study, which is now public knowledge. I have spent close to a decade with an organization called Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, which I'm sure all of you know. Anyone who enjoys graphics, processors, that is the name which you'll have on your mind. Now, AMD, some years ago, has gone through a very, very difficult spot. What was the difficulty or challenge which was posed? Tablet cannibalization. So a company which is reliant on 90+% of its revenues drawing from PCs, notebooks, netbooks, and data centers, which are large form factors, as we say, in the semiconductor world, suddenly lost more than $1 billion revenue, because where you were looking at a netbook or a notebook, now it's replaced by a tablet. And the whole business strategy went for a toss. The company's stock price went to $1. I'm referring to the year 2010 and 11. If anybody wants to go back and check, you will see. Then what happened? Today, you please check the stock price of AMD. It's crossed 100. So from $1 to $100 within a decade. And not just surviving, but thriving and doing extremely well. And recently, the company also announced it's acquiring another major company called Xilinx in the same semiconductor space. So what has the shift, and where is human resources out there? So I was leading the human resources as a corporate vice president globally in multiple COEs. So what have we done? The first thing we've done is skill diagnostics. And what led us to do skill diagnostics? The first thing we were looking at is, what is the business strategy? What is the shift we need to make in the business strategy? Because whatever strategy we had has failed us miserably and we lost revenue. So the C-suite sat down and had to redefine what does the company stand for and what are the spaces we need to really start working in terms of the products to market, right? The go-to-market strategy as well. Once that is redefined, now what is the job of human resources? You have a business strategy, and that is where the critical thinking, problem-solving skills of human resources comes to the fore. The first thing I have led across the globe in my role is skill diagnostics, as we call it. So we started looking at what are the skills we would require in employees or in our talent in order to accomplish the business objectives or goals and to get the products we have outlined, right? We also, through that diagnostics, we were able to go back and challenge the business leaders or present to them and influence their decisions, saying, hey, in this particular business unit, these are the numbers, but these are the skill gaps, which are not aligned to the business goals. So how do we now shift gears and make the company really redefine, reconfigure, and transform? So long story short, that was one of the major changes which was instrumental in shifting gears and allowing us to build the talent strategy in alignment with the business strategy to bring in the relevant talent. And over the next couple of years, we were able to get and retain the relevant talent in the organization. And how did we retain? We didn't have money. I'm being very honest. So the only way we could do it is we crafted a transparent communication methodology. We said the only way is let's go out right from the CEO. Everyone spoke from the heart, and we said we are in big trouble, but this is what we are, and this is what we can do if we can. So calling out to the brave hearts among the employees, as we called it, And we did something very beautiful, which even today, we're all proud of. We said, embrace the red, challenge the green, which is extremely counterintuitive. Embrace the red, challenge the green. So these are this is where the problem-solving approach of human resources came to the fore. Because what is normal for us as a human behavior is the moment you see something in the red, you want to have a flight or fright. That's the natural reaction. We said, embrace the red. That means, yes, we are already in the red. Embrace the red. Understand why we are in the red. Understand the rationale and move forward in solving that problem by breaking it down. Challenge the green is we are now questioning the complacency which must have set in where leaders haven't seen that it's all eroded. The business value, customer centered, everything is eroded. So we said, challenge the green. Don't just say something is in green and not look broadly or think big, and you're going to lose out. So that is how, with just some of this clarion calls of bringing in what I say is critical thinking, diagnostics, that is a huge value of human resources, because you're looking at talent, you're looking at who is the key talent, whom do you want to retain and engage, whom do you want to, let go, but also bring in fresh talent. So that is, I think, even today, irrespective of who we are, what we are with respect to technology and so on, will continue. The huge thought leadership and leading this process from a talent strategy, hand in glove with business, is what is the need of the hour. It is not going to be replaced by AI or machines, is what my business case is.
Great. Thanks, Sudhir and Kiran. So the IIM students, you can relax if you're taking HR or even otherwise anything. I think the example which Sudhir gave, right? Things have evolved. So job definitions have changed. And Kiran emphasized that, look, the critical skills are now the more softer skills which were not getting used earlier. You were getting maybe lost in the operations. Now is the time to build your critical problem-solving skills, decision-making things, diagnostics. These are the areas where you will be able to add value, because technology also brings its own complexity, and therefore it's new problems which we've never dealt with, right? Imagine I was giving you an example in between the 3.5-year-old. She's not growing up with technology, and it has its own perils, right? And we need to see how to solve that problem. So it's a parenting challenge. Similarly, of course, there are challenges in the workforce which are like many more complex, right? So the job definition and the skill set required, as Kiran mentioned, some 3 top ones, right? What could be the one which you should be focusing on? But jobs are here to stay, and I can tell you that at least from IT services, it's shifting, right? And from IT services, we're growing like anything, not just us, the entire industry, right? So things are shifting. Of course, somewhere the jobs may be reducing because of this whole technology interface, but somewhere else it's increasing at a different pace. And there's the shift. And I think that's what Sudhir alluded when the first transport vehicle would have been created and people thought something will change, but it changed, right? So it changed, and it's changing again. Just the pace of it, I think, is very scary. So that brings me to 2 problems which I think the HR teams are facing quite a bit. One is the kind of workforce which we are used to, right? Today, everybody wants full-time workforce sitting in front of you. That was what maybe a year back. Now is a time when people are experimenting, and there are big unicorns in the space, especially in the US. India also is experimenting with that, which is around the gig working, and the economy is really taking off, right? And that's a huge HR challenge by itself, right? That's what I keep hearing. So what are your thoughts in terms of whether it's here to stay in India, whether it is really a fad, or is it really something which is going to really change the way we are managing the manpower or the talent solutions at this point of time? So Sudhir, maybe over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Sumit. I think I'll just say, I think this was on my mind, gig working and those things. Being in a futuristic as my high competency as per the Gallup, I see that things are going to change. What I see is there are so many jobs apart from the HR. Let me give you an example. the automobiles industry and auxiliary industries maybe not be there after 10 years, because all the EV vehicles and driverless vehicles will take over. Can you hold it? No. Now, the vehicle insurance company may be off the rack, because if you have a EV vehicles and they are auto driven, you have no accidents. And it's going to happen. Now, that's the pace that things are going to change. Are you in vogue with that? I think that's a challenge the HR has to think. I think that's what I just in the first phase also I took, that things will change and somebody will be a catalyst and those things will change. Are you in vogue with that? That's one part of the HR. I think that's a critical part. The things will change. Second is the way the employees are working. Means I'm saying, if you talked about my company, my industry, my sector, 2 years before, it was not really we could not imagine a stockbroking dealer can punch a soda from the home. It was a totally no-no. Regulation wise, means ethics wise, or our means fair on those things, means something he can do wrong, he can mess it out, and there can be unethical things. I think last 16 months have changed those mental models. Hence, things will be, can we go with the hybrid? You had no choice, because the lockdown had no choice. Means you wanted to still run your business and the clients were looking for training. We had no choice. We made it on, and think regulatory will supported us with those tweaking those compliance issue, and the show was on. Means from late 18 months, the things are working. And if you see the number of the trades and those things, it has multiplied over a period. It has not decreased, by the way. That's the thing change happen. Now, coming to the gig workers, do you need a permanent employee now? Again, a question is why you need it. Can I have somebody on a wages basis, time basis, which is still not on in India? I think time is not so far. As we will have people say they will decide their working hours, and the HR has to be comfortable with that. I was wondering, is one of my friend, I will not name the company. She told me that I am going to do the job only for 4 hours. Remember, how come? Which is the company who is allowing you to work only for 4 hours? She named me in a company. Remember, that's a good thing. And that's going to happen. People will decide how many hours they want to work. And it will be more productive, by the way. But still the values, what at least in India and the beliefs we have will change. Because there are so many things, maybe the beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, which will get off the road. And the things will change. I can't resist it, by the way. It is better to see that what I can do best in that. Actually, in early internet, when internet got in a picture, I think HR forums we used to discuss whether we should allow people to access the internet in office, and what will happen if they will post this thing on a social media and those things. I said, okay, it's good. You can't hold it back. It is better you allow it and find out the way how you can do good things. They post good things rather than the bad things. Think in a positive way rather than holding it back, creating those barriers, creating those big walls and gates and those things. It's not going to work for you. I think we should be open with the change. I think that's betterment. That is for good. I think there is so much benefit to all of us.
So I can't disagree with what Sudhir said, but at the same time, I would like to draw our attention to two aspects. one aspect is the macro level economics, which none of us can ignore. So the macro level, when we're looking at it from a talent market perspective, is always supply and demand. So when we say, will this fly, will this not fly in a country like India, I think that is what will determine. Market economics will dictate. So depending on the supply and demand in the market of the skill set of certain demographics, that is where, if the organizations, some could be progressive organizations, and they will shift around and make enterprise-wide policy changes wherein they say part-time work is allowed, which is the 4 hours which Sudhir just referred to. Or they could talk about a woman who is going through the maternity. For instance, we all know Canada has 1 year of maternity leave benefit, whereas India very recently, a couple of years ago, moved it to clearly 6 months, right? Now, does that mean we don't recruit women any longer? Of course not. We have found a workaround now, or how do we offset and bring in temp workers so that we can continue to have that protection to the women who are in the workforce. So similarly, each time a new policy comes in or a shift occurs, we will find a way to address that and solve for. But I want all of us to think, in India, how soon can gig economy become a reality in the larger industry will take a little time, because we do have more supply than demand. So that is very, very important for us to look at. And then the other aspect which I also want to draw our attention is, today, when you look at a corporate, when you look at an organization, public sector, private sector, whatsoever, there has been a lot of thinking. Earlier, we just had 2 categories broadly. What are those 2 categories? We would say for-profit organization and not-for-profit organization. So there is an organization which is meant to, through its business, through its operations, create wealth, right? That's for-profit. There are organizations, whether it's in public or private, which are meant to do it for community impact, for the larger social good. That is for impact organizations or not for profit. Today, we're talking about a 3rd category of organizations. What are these category of organizations which are now growing? These are the organizations which we call as for-benefit organizations. Now, what are these for-benefit organizations? This is a hybrid which Sudhir was referring to, even at an organization level. The hybrid is, you have definitely it's a combination of for-profit and also not-for-profit, which is the aspect of community impact. So we're combining that, where organizations are also driven by purpose, not just in terms of wealth as a motto. That shift has occurred. And how do we know that shift has occurred, or it's clearly progressing? You see today, and so they just referred about what's happening with stockbroking. I mean, unthinkable, right? They're working from home, which at one point was considered, how can? I was in NYSC a couple of years ago on the floor because I wanted to feel that pulse, because I was working for the parent company of New York Stock Exchange, ICE. I was heading the operations for India. I started it from scratch in India. So I was there in New York, along with the executives, along with Jeff Sprecher, the chairman, and Ben Jackson, who was the president. And I was doing the tour and I was on the floor. I could feel that. At the same time, it was so wonderful to learn how historically, how those bidders were there, how they used to bid on that floor. But today, it's all technology-led. There is no longer a human being out there who is actually bidding. It's all happening virtually. You have those tickers, you have those huge technology engines, which is happening by the nanosecond, or every second it shifts. So technology has taken over, but that didn't mean jobs have gone. Jobs have changed. Jobs have been redefined. Those stockbrokers who did that job now brought in other value-added services. So similarly, and what else has the framework done for benefit organizations? Today, the lens is very clear. We're talking about ESG as an important agenda for organizations to look through. What is ESG? Environmental, social, and governance. Governance is local law, enterprise-wide. What kind of compliance, regulatory mechanisms you have to keep up with. The environmental is the larger community. That's where the for-benefit aspect or the purpose-driven aspect is coming in. But I'm more interested, because we are human resources, and that's the topic, social. What is a social piece? It is, how do you really engage with employees, the talent internally, and with customers externally? That is the social responsibility of that organization as well, both for internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders. What are the measures taken? What are the operational key drivers for the organization to operate? So when that shift has occurred, which was not there, a decade ago, when you look at it, no organization was talking about purpose as one of its core agendas. It was talking about wealth for, if it's a business organization. So if that shift has occurred, and today we're referring to human resources and gig economy, the employee demographics or the talent demographics in a given geography will determine, will gig economy become the rule or the game changer, or will it not? So in certain countries, like you're talking about the Nordic or the Scandinavian countries, where the supply is skewed, the demand could be higher. That's where you will see the adoption for gig economy, part-time work, and so on and so forth will be much faster. They will be early adopters. For the simple reason, the economics will dictate, the talent market will dictate the change. So once again, I'll stop. I'll pause and over to you, Smith.
No, absolutely. I think the fact that there is a shift happening, and that's what I think Sudhir also mentioned, and he talked about what is happening in the financial services, which is far more regulated, which has changed. So you can imagine what the shift is coming to. And at the same time, of course, India has to catch up demand supply, as you mentioned, which is true. In fact, we have a company we acquired, which is on some of these crowdsourcing platforms. And we've also realized you can't do everything on that platform, right? There are and there are issues from our customers because we are a third-party provider every time, right? So on copyrights, on security, many other things which come in. So they're only basic stuff, and in India that supplies much more. So it's much more useful at very specialized skill. In some sectors it's successful, not everywhere. Yeah, it'll catch up, but yeah, the shift is definitely happening. But that shift brings me to the other point. What we've seen, and I can vouch for the IT services, that there is a talent gap, right? Now imagine the stock brokers now need to learn the new technology, which perhaps they were comfortable sitting on the floor and bidding and shouting with one of the systems. Now there's a completely different ball game altogether in the last 1.5 years. The second thing which has happened is there are more newer players, right? Again, I'll take maybe financial services. This startup called Zerodha, which I've been reading about, seems to have has challenged some of these traditional big houses of brokerage and the financial services side. Right? So the new models are also emerging, and it's not just financial services, everywhere, right? We see every industry is impacted, and technology has reduced the entry barrier for the newer players to come in and challenge the existing players, right? So there is a talent gap, and that's what at least we face, right? And I don't know whether you are also experiencing the same, and is that a priority from HR function at this point of time? Or is it more than what it was earlier, right? Kiran, you mentioned 4,000 CVs come on LinkedIn, but are you still seeing that gap, that problem solving, that decision making, which you pointed out? Is there a talent gap or not?
There is very clearly huge talent gap, at least what I see in the industry I operate as well. And when I talk to my peer group in the other, legacy brick and mortar companies also, we see a huge talent gap. When we say talent gap, it's about, are they ready to, is it plug and play? No, it's not. We do have huge supply, but unfortunately, I think that is where the bridge, how do they become industry ready? I think that piece or that aspect is still quite a huge barrier even today, despite the technology, despite all these interactions with the institutes and so on. What we find is that critical thinking, problem solving, or data analytics level, a lot of these youngsters are extremely savvy with technology, better than some of us were tenured, because they grew, as you rightly said, a 3.5-year-old, she's a digital kid. So imagine what they would be. They're going to be much faster in adopting technology. But what they're not looking at is the big picture thinking, for instance. So for a problem solving, it's not about a band-aid fix. It's about looking at multiple facets, and because you're not fixing it for now, you're fixing it as understanding the root cause. So I do not see that root cause analysis in problem solving, for instance, right? Which perhaps only with experience you can get, is one way to look at it. The other is, are they even giving themselves time to say, have I looked at all possible aspects? Or am I consulting an expert? Am I consulting someone to check in? Consulting does not mean you are dependent on someone for every small thing and you lean on someone else. So you see those extremes when we say talent gap. Either they're expecting everything to be trained, and it's like peeling the onion and handing it over. That is one extreme set. The other is they think they know, and they would jump in, and then we will fall in for the damage control or risk mitigation. So that is where I see the talent gaps. While there are some who are extremely brilliant and they think out of the box, right? I'm not saying everybody is like that, but yes, talent gap exists. And that is where I think we need to constantly reinforce and create those bridges from an industry perspective as well, and see how do we help them understand from a scenario perspective, because problem solving is always in the contextual understanding. It cannot be like one shoe fits all. So how do they start leveraging that kind of a thinking prowess, where they're applying the skills which they have learned in theory, but when the application comes in, they need to start thinking broadly and say, who are the impacted? I have a simple framework of checking in all the WH questions to start with: who, what, when, where, why, right? And how do we approach? Should be the last one. But if they jump into action, if they're in an autopilot mode, that's when the damage occurs.
Right. Sudhir, what is your view?
See, I really appreciate the views of the Kiran. If you see India as population, huge population, and please don't catch my figures, I'm just estimating it. 56% population, workable population. Means if I say workable population, I'm talking about 20 plus to 55 age. Okay. Now this is the people who can work. That's around 56-60% of the population. And I was doing my research and I wrote an article also on this. In this population, I think 50% only population want to do job. That's really alarming. And means you'll be surprised, by the way. Means if you go to the villages of Haryana and those things, and I did a bit survey on this, they have money, they don't want to do job. And they don't want to take a job. Means just you eliminate that population. And if you come to net, and then you see that what is left out for you. And in that left out population, and which is the hireable population, which will match the skill set, what I want to pay. I think there's a huge gap. Hence, the matching doesn't happen. And that's a bigger challenge we have. Means there is I say that there's a problem at the both ends. The people want job and we want people. I think we are not able to match each other. Hence that maybe education institution and the companies have to partner somewhere. I'm just getting into the solution. Sorry for that. Means we have to partner somewhere. Means actually I'm a consumer of that product. I think three things. One is a consumer, one is a customer, and one is a seller. I think I'm a consumer of the product. Actually, the consumer needs are to be met. Actually, the product is good. The customer who is going through that process of becoming an educated person and those things is good. Actually, I'm not able to consume that. I think that's a bigger gap we have. That's a bigger challenge. And most of the things, I think, I was just, I think I wrote also about 2-3 articles on that. I think we have to see what are the skills we need. And can somebody have those finishing schools and get those skills up in 4-5 months and they are employable. One is knowing, and second thing is what they will do by that knowing is totally different, and that's a bigger gap we have. Not really getting into the degrees and those things. I think I'm also from the Premier Institute and those things. I say the knowledge is good, but most of the knowledge is available on a Google now. What is that I'm going to do with that knowledge? I think that's very important. Because in older days, means that knowledge was not freely available. Hence, we were having so much of things. We used to mug it up. We used to go through those. I'm not saying that it is not required in a present curriculum, but the doability of that knowledge is more important. What are the insights after you read? How are you going to apply it? Can you do one semester and go in somewhere 2 months after that semester in industry and go and try it out first? And then gradually go it. I don't miss how it can do it. It's my thoughts, but I think that's what is needed for a day to make it the gap. Means we have potentials, we have people, we have jobs, but everybody is struggling. Means I struggle every day to hire people, and I'm sure that so many people will be struggling to get a job, but we are not able to match both the ends. I mean, my performance is dependent upon the hire people. And there are so many people who want job, but I'm not able to match the things. And it's a dilemma. Means we are not able to get it that maybe mutual something where we can fix it out. I want your views, Sumit.
No, absolutely. If you ask in IT, this is what we are facing. In fact, our CEO or the industry is saying the people at the end of this year or the next 2 years, in fact, are the ones who will be able to solve the talent gap will actually grow. There is no dearth of the business in the system, but it is about who can actually fill the talent supply chain issue at this point of time. And today in IT, if you've been following, there are some crazy salaries. Everybody's switching because of that, because that's what is happening. Because I think the demand is far outstripping the supply. And it's not that, again, as you said, right, there are people available, but they're not the ones which we can consume, right, as you put it. So that's a big challenge. And what Kiran's also mentioning, in fact, that reminds me, that soft skill of problem solving, that is actually a very key skill. In fact, Japan, which is technology advanced, they don't have resources other than their economy runs on technology and productivity and efficiency. I think they realized a few years back that if they need to be still an economy which is remains in the know and developed, they need to teach problem solving at school. So they built a curriculum around it. They hired some McKinsey guys to actually build the entire problem solving curriculum. So that's pretty interesting too. So that gap, and in fact, Japan or some of the developed nations gives you exactly what is what we are facing at this point of time. And today, of course, it's a very different scenario. And that, I think, different scenario today because of COVID. And I think I'll just want to move to that part of it, right? And bring another problem. COVID has accelerated. Nobody thought some of the things which are happening at this point of time, that we will be having a panel discussion on Zoom. Who would have thought 1.5 years back, right? I can tell you people were uncomfortable if I will tell them, let's do a video call. They'll say, no, walk down to my office or this, right? Today, so the same naysayers will say, oh, why don't you switch on your video? Because they're not excited about it. They've learned this entire technology. So it's like an amazing shift which has happened. And that has brought another HR challenge, which I think is around protecting the culture. right? And we keep saying that culture is one of the big differentiator after you made the strategy of your business, and the execution depends on how you are actually, how the entire culture of the organization is. And that's a big problem, right? I haven't met my team for the last 1.5 years, and I took just after the pandemic. Of course, I'm old in the system, so I know the people, but I can imagine the people who've come new, right? And the kind of attrition we've been seeing because of the talent gap and the demand supply change. It's very difficult to actually protect that culture, right? It's absolute a big challenge for, at least from our HR standpoint. So I would just want to take your views. How are you tackling this issue? Are you feeling the same issue which I'm trying to, at least which we are facing, at least personally also I have felt in this aspect. So maybe Sudhir, you may want to.
Yeah. I think you just touched me in my real chord. See, I can understand the thing what you're going through. I think retaining is becoming a challenge. And maybe yesterday I was just taking my review with all the regional HRs and my one. I said that this year I think we need to focus only for retention, not for hiring anything. And we were just debating, trying to find out what is the way forward. I see one or two things. I may be miserably wrong, but let me put my view. See, people join company and they leave the boss. And actually, how you train that first-time manager how to deal with people. And there's no school where we teach him. It's actually a good person who's a good performance. What we do in HR, we make him manager. And without assessing, is it capable, can handle the people? Because handling the people and people skill is a different ball game itself. Everybody don't have a band out. I can be individual potential and I will be a leadership potential. These are two different things. Means individually I can excel in my career, but as a leader I can excel. I think these are two different skills that people have. But HR, I'm just talking of mine, maybe, but I'll just watch that most of the people, we still have not developed those things that to go in and telescopically see it, whether he's an individual potential or he is a leadership potential. There we go wrong, because retaining a people is a relationship. And normally, if you have a relationship with people, they will live with you. You have a high trust and those things, blah, blah, and you retain people. But if it is a relationship is only a transactional nature, it's a one transaction with versus other transaction, I think he will also become a transaction with you, and one day he get a better transaction outside, he will leave. That's a major thing, which even the technology can't help you out. There is the HR where we need HR interventions. How to get those things, how to make the first level manager to understand without people, you're no more a manager. You're an individual and it's a different skill. And you have to learn it, because there's no school which teaches us what are the things and those things. I think mostly the people learn on the job, maybe by doing too many mistakes and terminating more people, and then they graduate and get some skills to how to handle it. But by the time the damages are too many, can we get those things right at the basic level? I feel that's only the solution. I look forward to your suggestion. You have something.
I don't have a suggestion, but the relationship part, I think the technology is making it more difficult. Right?
Yeah.
If you're not meeting, and that is a bigger challenge also, one of those. And that's where I think I was alluding to, that protecting culture is also a big issue. Therefore, both it's kind of interlinked. Kiran, what's your view?
It is absolutely a challenge, Sumit, as you said, because especially when you're looking at, culture, engagement, the fabric is always stitched in, that human touch. today with the pandemic, you're not able to meet people, you're not able to see them, everything is virtual. So while productivity or getting a task done may not be such a big ticket item or a problem for majority of our organizations, where it's a derailer or a bummer, as we say, is on the cultural aspects, strengthening the culture, reinforcing those values, helping bridge the gap in terms of the human relations or employee relations is where it's become a challenge. So I can share what we have done at Western Digital. So as pandemic started unfolding in the first quarter itself, or actually 2019 last quarter, because in the US it started a little earlier, as we all know, and later only India, it was the first quarter or the second quarter of 2020 is when the lockdown started, right? March ending. And so when this really started in the US, and we, as some of the execs, were meeting as thought leaders, and we said, hey, what if? So we created what is referred to as what if scenarios, because that is our job as human resources as well when we look at talent engagement strategies. And we said, what if it's going to be in other countries? And we have presence across multiple countries in the globe. So we started checking out a strategy where all the regional heads of all these geographies of HR came in, and we said, what should we be doing? And that's how we evolved a framework. And we're happy that we've done that. We were able to think ahead and sort of future-proofed. I'm not saying that is the best approach, but this is definitely a better approach than not doing anything. So what we've created is we brought in what we refer to as culture advocates and culture champions across the globe. So culture champions are chosen from every single business vertical. So this is the C-suite level, someone who is very proactive, someone who has that empathy and people connect, was the leader, a senior leader chosen. So we're not talking about just someone down the value chain. And they're given this as a very important, like how an Air Force officer would. So that's like a wing which is placed on your, clear lapel and say, all right, this is the baton you're going to take and carry forward, right? So that's how some of us have taken on the culture champion roles in addition to our day jobs, right? And there's a framework which is given to us in terms of how often do we touch base, what do we do, how do we engage, what are the events which we can do virtually. And similarly, in each of the geographies, within each business unit, we've again asked for volunteers from the employees saying culture advocates. And we defined what the role of culture advocate is. So culture champion continuously meets up with the culture advocates within a region and also dialogues with them to check in and see. So this is not just a HR mandate. So it's gone beyond HR. HR created or designed this, but it's everybody in the line management who is able to embrace it and take it forward. So with this launch, I think we're very proud today where we continually see an engagement which is happening on MS Teams, collaboration, which is outside work, right? So we have created various forums where, and we started blogging. Blogging has become a culture which we've all embraced. We blog on anything, internal, external. It need not be just business relevant. It is something on an emotional aspect, something which touches us. It's about a book I read. So it became a forum where leaders started talking about the essentials of leadership. They started giving day-to-day examples of what worked or what did not work well as well. And that's how the coaching and mentoring, on the job has begun. And that is the cultural fabric we were trying to stitch, and we're still on the journey. But I do see a huge, I'm smiling because I feel we've actually done something which helped majority of our employees in the workforce to stay connected and to inspire them. For instance, just to give you an example, just 1 week ago, I blogged, which will go again viral across the globe. All the Western Digital employees will be able to see it. I took the example of snakes and ladders. You're all familiar with snakes and ladders game, right? Which is much more Asian or you're familiar. So I've taken snakes and ladders game And I talked about how it is applicable from a career ladder progression as well. And I connected with, ethics and behavior. So talked about, if there are right behaviors, how someone, it's like the ladder and you'll be progressing. But if it's the wrong behaviors, even if it looks you're progressing, at some point, a snake is going to bite you and you're going to get derailed. So with simple analogy and those visuals. So this is just one example. There are several like that, where another thing which we've done is right from the leaf level engineer to everyone, a factory worker, we started creating interviews. So the culture advocates would interview them on what's working, what's not, more on the values focus. What is happening from our company values? Do they see them demonstrated? How do they see it in their day-to-day life represented? So once we started, and then we publicize it, we bring it, we make it viral across again. All this created more connect across the globe. Now people started connecting in different forums, and different cohorts have been formed among employees and managers and others, because now they're learning about something, what's happening in Thailand or the Philippines or in the US or in Europe, in some, whether it's Czech Republic or Israel, and so on and so forth. So I think what we've done is to create that fabric undeterred by the pandemic, which is making it very, very difficult and impossible at times. But we said we will not give up. We will create a fabric where we will still create the connections and engagement hooks for everyone. So I'll stop.
So that's great, Kiran. I think technology has its challenges, but I think even to reach a global audience like this is also something which technology enables to an extent. Yeah, and then that's a challenge again in IT, especially people are working in different places, client side, this side, that side. We never bothered about this remote working relationship part, which Sudhir said, right? Because it is a small minority at that time, the majority could still come to office. There'll be 15-20% of people. Now, all of a sudden, I think a lot of these, we're still learning the curve in terms of how do we, the headwind of technology and on those core human aspects, how do we balance that out? How do we not get derailed by the technology and its impediments on the human aspect, on the relationship aspect? So that brings me to one more question. So transformation business is going through, COVID has accelerated like anything because of this lockdown, new models, new ways of working. People are debating about future of work, future of workforce, future of everything, right? It seems to have something which could have happened maybe in 5 years to 10 years. It is all of a sudden 1.5 years down the line, we are almost maybe we've taken pace which perhaps we were not necessarily capable of, right? But that's how it has been. So what will be your advice for the HR folks, whether young or the leaders, right, in terms of how do they take this transformation journey for themselves and for the function, right? What could be those things that they should focus pointedly on? What would be those priorities which you will give it to them for themselves and for the function? Maybe Kiran, you can start.
Sure, Sumit. I would put OD as a very important function or practice, because if we understand how do we develop organization, and that is, organization is nothing but an aggregate of people. So if we can start focusing on how do we ensure, what interventions do we need to bring in at different points of time, and if HR professionals start really harnessing that lever, because that requires a lot of thought and designing as per the business strategy. That's one I'll put on top of the charts. The other one which I'll put on top of the charts today is, there is this new book which came in, and it's very interesting. It talks about the world needs more purple people. What it means is, we're talking about red, blue, yellow, all the rainbow colors we talk about, because each color is a symbolic of either a risk taker or someone being courageous and bold, or someone who is empathetic and compassionate. So we tend to look at people as if, they're not a combination of everything. We either say, oh, this person is rude and, very focused on task and not on people, or someone could be only compassionate about people, so not really delivering on the outcomes. So the purple people is, what is interesting about it is, Sudhir also addressed it earlier in terms of emotional quotient. What this book is referring to, and it's actually a book for little children, what it's referring to is the future. Whenever we're talking about the future of the world, it's so much of unpredictability. I mean, the VUCA world, as we say, right? There's so much of ambiguity, uncertainty, and so on and so forth. So if we have to prepare the citizens for tomorrow, right? Or we have to prepare HR professionals, I take the same analogy. It has to be not just, looking at the emotional aspects alone, but how do you deal with adversity? The AQ, as we say, adversity quotient, is also extremely, extremely significant today, because organizations, just as people, are going through different kinds of crisis. So crisis management is not a skill which is taught or which is learned so easily, right? It generally comes with experience, but that agility, that ability to stay on the course despite the adversity, and to be able to think and keep your emotions at bay and use your IQ. So it's a combination of that IQ, EQ, which is where the AQ stands in. I think that is another one which is highly significant in the way the world is changing, where every single HR professional also needs to understand, because the only thing which we see in organizations today is change is the only constant. It's no longer on the poster. It's something come alive. You will see leadership changes. You will see org structure changes. Sometimes it's centralization. Sometimes it's decentralization. Sometimes it's acquisition, right? Sometimes it's a merger. So the configuration of the organization which you're part of changes so rapidly and drastically. And every change brings with it different elements of human resource, practice. So it's not just about policy. It's not just about, tools and technology and a process. It's about how do you integrate and create that interface from a human angle and continue to wade through those troubled waters. So that's why I would look at OD, employee relations, and adversity quotient as highly rated and relevant skills in the future for HR professionals.
Hey, thanks, Kiran. Very, very important point. Sudhir, what's your view?
I will not leave it to the HR people only. I always say that if you're getting married, you should better know how to handle your wife. Why HR? I think every person, every manager should know how to handle the people. HR can only be a facilitator. Means a big organization having thousands of people, don't keep it the monkey on the shoulder of HR. Every leader should know how to handle his people, right? Said that, when Kiran talked about beyond EQ and those things, I think all people need to shift, and the shift has to be from boss to coach. Means the things have to change now. Rather being a boss, I think we need to be a coach. Now, what is the shift I see in this? Tell less, ask more. That's a simple thing. Can you ask more and tell less? How would your experience, the step. Listen without the burden of agreement. When you listen, still nobody can stop you to take an order out. But do you have a patience? I think those primarily skills and those things means the people who have been well experienced, I think including me and everybody, I think we need to shift out. Can I become a coach? Can I hold my breath? Can I take a deep breath? Can I listen to a person before I come to the conclusion? And can I hold for a while? Those things has to change. I think the way the new generation is coming, and let me go back. I can still remember our parents used to scold us and maybe sometime manhandle us for not doing something. I think no kid today is being touched. That's a difference. And how you can handle them the way you have been handled in early childhood in office. I think that's a shift. Because nowadays parenting is different, and Once the people come to the office, are you handling them in the same way how you are handling your case today? That's a major thing has to change. Means that is what I'm saying, that that's what is relationship. Going beyond the job. Can you create? I mean, as long as you are able to do it, people don't break relationships, by the way. Means relationships are so perfect. Means you may have all those old stories of that all the love stories and those things. The relationship never breaks. It will take out all the challenges, but it doesn't break. Can you get into that human aspect of the thing? I think all the problems get resolved. Let us get out of the being a boss.
Very pertinent. I think we get lost in technology. The human element is what perhaps we cannot. It has to be now maybe practiced more. When the technology was lesser, you were listening more maybe. Today you get distracted more easily. And your skill set of human element of coaching, of listening, of building a relationship, I think that's kind of really impacted. So maybe I think that's almost time is up. So maybe for the students, I think there's a lot of good news, right? The AI and technology is not taking jobs, it's making only more interesting. It is taking a level up, right? From transactional skills, you have to get into a lot more complex skills like critical thinking, problem solving, relationship building. They were not complex maybe 20 years back. But today, I think with technology and it taking our space so much, right? Those are things which have become very important. But the good news is there's a lot money, there's a talent gap, and people have a lot of growth opportunity if they build the right skill set. Things are changing at a fast pace, and at the same pace, we really need to evolve. And that's what is happening. On the HR side of it, current challenges, as we discussed, culture, new workforce, the future of work, how do we mix technology and transform HR, right? How do you bring that balance between human and technology? How do you make use of the technology? There's enough and new and plenty of things in HR. It's a lot more happening place at this point of time, and not just HR. I think as Sudhir said, it's not just HR, but every aspect of workplace is going through their transformation. So that's what you are up to, right? For all the audience, I think there's a lot more to do, especially the students of IIM. We have a lot of hope on all of you, right? As you enter the workforce, right? As Sudhir said, we want to consume it well. We need more purple people, as Kiran mentioned, right? That's what we are looking forward to. So thanks a lot, Sudhir and Kiran. I enjoyed this discussion. And I think I'll take a pause here, and then I'll hand to the IIM team for Q&A. I think we can move to Q&A now. Thanks, Sudhir. Thanks, Kiran.
Thanks.
A heartfelt thanks to the dignitaries for making the session truly knowledgeable and the discussion extremely scintillating for our students with the valuable insights. Now we had questions pouring in from the audience, some of which we would like to take now. So for the first question, I would ask Mr. Vignesh Ji from the MBA07 batch to ask his question.
Good evening, everyone. With the advent of new technologies, I would like to know which key factor should be addressed immediately. Whether should we give more priority in changing the performance evaluation of the existing employees or the process of finding new talents?
Yeah, maybe Sudhir, you want to take this?
Hey, can you repeat the question? I was a bit confused. Can you repeat?
Yes, which key factor should we give more priority to? Whether in changing the performance evaluation or in finding new talents with these emerging technologies?
Yeah, performance evaluation is always a debatable topic. I still feel a person will get a gold medal when we get to the solution of this in HR. But I think first thing is getting the right people in on board. I think if as long as what Kiran talked about, if the culture and the things are already laid down in a organization, I think performance is the outcome. Because performance is not only to the talent. It is having so much other impacts on the culture, how the work is seen in an organization, how bosses, there are so many dimensions to the performance. I think first priority for any organization to get right people and board them on a bus and make them to sit on the right seat. And the performance is a different thing. Then there has to be a process to how to evaluate, how to support that performance. I think first and important thing is to get the right people and make them to sit in a right seat.
Yeah. And I think I'll just add, see, if you have the right people, performance also will take care of it. Performance evaluation, we may be wrong, but finally the outcome, you may be 3 months delayed, 6 months delayed, but the outcome speaks for itself. A better evaluation system can actually tell me whether the person is doing well or not, maybe a little earlier, the subjectivity in the performance, but filling the talent gap, getting the right people, putting in them the right, with their strengths, putting in the right skill set, right, the right kind of job, will always remain important and the top priority. Yeah, maybe the next question.
Yeah. So for the next question, we have Mr. Siddharth M from the 06 batch. Siddharth, please go ahead and ask a question.
Maybe Siddharth's on mute.
Yeah.
You may want to.
Is he here? Okay, he might be facing some technical difficulties. Nevertheless, we'll move on to the next question. We have Ms. Fareen Kausa from the 06 batch for the question. Fareen, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, panelists. It was indeed an insightful session. My question is for Kiran, ma'am. Ma'am, my question has two parts. You've spoke about engagement and intervention. But with this new era of technology and the culture shift that's happening, it's imperative for any manager to understand and intervene in human resource management. It's not just the purview of HR alone anymore. On the same lines, engagement is something that is being focused on largely. So, ma'am, my first question is that we see organizations using surveys such as Gallup. But how does the implementation of the analysis of these engagement interventions look like? Or even the scope of just using 12 questions to judge an exhaustive topic like engagement, for that matter. And secondly, ma'am, how do we bring about greater adoption and minimize resistance towards technology while we are involving all the stakeholders in this process?
So I will address the first one. The first one is in terms of surveys, engagement or pulse surveys as we call, which is voice of employee. What do we do with that? Because there could be multiple aspects, as you're saying, which will emerge as a voice of the employee. So to make it really relevant, organizations like ours, what we do is we hold a survey every 6 months, especially now given the pandemic and people are not able to meet in person and so on. So every 6 months. So what does that mean? Which also means there's a lot of work. But it's not HR which is going to lead it. I mean, I loved what Sudhir said earlier, right? It's not the mandate of only that small set of people. You can be crafting it. You're like the architect, you design it. But then the implementation lies in the hands of every people manager. So what happens is when these reports come up, right? People participate, there's a respondent ratio. And once we see the reports are already ready-made. That's where the beautiful technology levers are at play. Gone are those days where that whole data has to be sieved through and so much of data mining had to be done and make it beautifully polished presentations, which HR has to bring it to the business. Today, every manager who has 5 direct reports or 5 plus will always get a report and they have a respondent ratio. That's what we mean. So it's readily accessible, available. They can do the cut and slice as they would like to, but the guidelines are being shared by human resources team. So they're available in case they need some guidance, but it's each people manager in the organization who gets the report. And now how do we manage if there are lots of asks? Simple thing, we say pick one, which is the top pain point or the ask of the employees and go after that. Talk to the employees, meet the team and say, this is what I'm going to implement. And within 6 months, you will again do another voice of the employee survey. So we will know whether it is actioned, whether that particular manager, because there's a manager score, there is also at an org level, various other scores. That's how we are able to hold them accountable. So that's one aspect. I'll also share with you what we've done recently at Western Digital. We've taken one entire business unit, which has thousands of employees across the globe in multiple geographies, right? And that business unit is called Flash because it is in the flash memory business, right? So what we've created is to create the fun, we named it, we designed an intervention from HR called as Flash Mob. You all understand what a flash mob is. So it's a lot of fun and impromptu, somebody just comes together and on a theme, there's a dance. So similar to that, we said, we found one which across that particular business unit, we found as a recurring theme from a voice of employee. So we said, all right, we're going to pick this as an action agenda. And we said there's a brainstorming which is going to happen across the globe, but we divided each, that entire, because we said thousands, right? So thousands, how are they going to come to virtually and brainstorm? So we've designed it in such a manner, it's only 20 to 25 per team. So we broke it down. This is what I meant by critical thinking and complex problem solving and an OD intervention, right? So what we've designed as human resources and gave the toolkit to managers. And we made the director plus as the facilitators for this. So we also created a facilitator toolkit and said, this is what you're going to try. So what did we say? Earlier, Sumit mentioned this. Play a listener. Don't be a problem solver. Don't jump to the action. You want to hear to the employees, their voice, their thoughts, their ideation. So you're just playing. So we gave them this role where they're not going to lead anything other than facilitation. They have to play the listening hat, observer hat, right? That is what we mandated them to do. We trained them, right? All the facilitators across the globe. And then another thing which we have also crafted in this is, we said, hey, you know what? It is going to follow the sun model. That means we will start with Japan, which is the land of the rising sun. So the first, that team starts, then the other Asia teams will start wherever they're located. And then it moves, right? Europe, Israel, and then finally US. With US, it closes. So within the same 12 hours, that's how that exercise or intervention has begun. And we said, and what are they doing? They're brainstorming. So we've asked them how to prioritize. There was a pre-work and then there is work where they've clearly talked about what is referred to barriers to execution as the focus, which came in as one of the big ones out of this survey, and said, what is in the control of the team at the level of the team? What can be done? So we started moving them towards not just identifying a problem, but making them part of the solution. Then we said, what is in the control of the business organization, the smaller business organization, not just at a team level. They had to identify those. Then we moved to what is at the level of the business unit, the larger business unit. What's in the control of that? Then we said, what is outside the business unit? That means there are other organizations, dependencies. So those are the 4 themes or buckets we've given. Unbelievable. We named a particular date and we said across the globe, same hour, right? Whenever that time is relevant for that time zone of that country. It's all done. We gave them a clear template where they can log in everything as the intervention occurs. It's a 4-hour intervention, right? Facilitated by Director Plus. And finally, we started, looking at that data mining. That's where again HR came in. So we facilitated the design phase. We equipped them with all the templates and the training. And we came in at the closure, again looked at it. And at the highest level, in all hands of that particular business unit, the leader spoke about what are those solutions, and we started implementing. We put a timeline for the ones, low-hanging fruits immediately. At the team level, we said, go ahead and do it, right? Organization level, the VPs and others have taken it up as their KPIs or KRAs and started implementing. So a long story, but I'm giving you a live illustrative example of what organizations can do if they really want to listen to the employee voice and still make it feasible in terms of implementation.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So Siddharth was facing the technical difficulties, but I think he's back with us now. So Siddharth, can you please go ahead with the question?
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for a wonderful evening. And so my question is, organizational change isn't always easy to adapt for all the team members, and it can be quite intimidating for people. So how can HR as a department try to help these people, and how to make sure that this digital transformation is seamlessly included into the organization without causing disruption?
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, let me take it up. See, I think a wonderful question is that is what is a priority for HR, all HR people. And I think more or less it is done, because it was a problem around 5-6 years or 10 years before. The people, the manual job were moving to a machine. And it was a bigger challenge how to upskill those things. If you've heard me, I talked about the jobs are not going to go off, but the skilling has to change. And it was a big job. It was a big challenge. Means actually my secretary, my office boy, my account people. There were so many these jobs which were supposed to move on the machine. And that time it was a bigger challenge. I'm sure that all the organizations, including me, we had those crash courses, making people to learn about programs, software, applications, and infusing the application in the organization, and doing those town halls, explaining them why and those things, getting them out of the fear that their jobs are going up. Because most thing is it's a change management. I mean, mostly people can learn it easily, but because of the high fear, they will refuse to change. More is not a learning, getting the mindset to upskill themselves. And the same thing will happen in the future also. The technology will keep on coming in, and the process is as I said, it won't be much of challenge in future. However, it was a challenge before. It was a bigger challenge for companies how we migrate the people from manual to the automatic. But most or less, yeah, means it's a journey, and it will come again. And that is only the way. Means you show them the benefits and give them a trust. Say that you are not going to leave job, and it should not be only said, it should be in actions. We are here to upskill you. I'm here to train you. Means I have taken so many sessions, means maybe 6-7 years before, for office boys, to train them what is a new way of your job will be seen as. Is we are not going to throw you off of the company, but there's a need to change. What is the new thing you want to do? What are the skills here? And then facilitate with them with those trainings, upskilling. I believe it's a journey and it has to go on. Wonderful question.
Thank you, sir. So the next question, we have Mr. Pujit Sarvaya from 07 batch. Pujit, please go ahead.
Yeah. My question is a little in line of the previous question which was asked by Siddharth, but a little specific on the training aspects, that as a very important function of training and development in the HR, the way transformation has happened from classroom trainings to the virtual training, it gets quite difficult for trainers to deliver the right content and as effectively as they were able to previously in the physical world, and also to get the undivided attention of their trainees. On the same time, for trainees as well, it gets difficult to reach at to the level of what the trainer is trying to deliver. So how to, what can be done to match the level that was previously there in the teaching, learning, or rather skilling or development process?
Okay, let me take it up. Again, a beautiful question for you. Means actually we were caught unguarded. As COVID again made us to rethink. Typically my previous background is as a trainer only. Now, saying that training can be only done means I was also having the mindset that training can be only done in a classroom setup and where I can see the faces, I can catch those emotions and those things. Yes, that's true, but it can be done virtually also. Now, you have to make the contents and the delivery so interested, the people even don't see their mobile phone. That is up to us. That's a way that's a challenge for a facilitator. Actually, that's a challenge. That's a challenge for a facilitator. The training, people are ready to listen to you, but as long as you are ready to, you have a step to grab their attentions. You just see the mobile, you just see the movie, and the movie is good. You don't look to your phone. It's not about the phone. It's about the contents what you play, right? Now it's a challenge for a trainer and a facilitator. How he makes it interesting. I think Zoom has wonderful tools also to break it, to quiz it, and so many things. Even off late, even I also learned about it at this age, how the technology can be used to do the training and those meetings. I think it's not a challenge now. It was a mindset. I still feel that people can do it virtually and run it, whether it's a e-learning or it's doing a training on a virtual platform through Zooms and those things. I think people have learned. I mean, last 14 months made us to learn so many good things. I mean, we were feeling it difficult, but it's good things, I will say. I think I learned a lot of many things in the last 14 months.
Yeah. Maybe
So
we had boring facilitators in the classroom also. It is not that only virtually you face that. But yeah, as I think what Sudhir started, we were caught unguarded. This came too soon. But the new systems are evolving, right? So the training department or the people who are into training, they have evolved into new steps to keep yourself engaged on even virtual. So smaller program modules with a more engaging work to back it up with quick intervals. So that's what is changing. And I think it is a matter of time. It will come to the same effectiveness, at least whatever we've seen, right? When we do this training effectiveness survey immediately after, the scores have improved and they're almost at par what was the classroom. But yeah, I think classroom still has its, I think it will not necessarily, I wouldn't say that it'll be the same. In some places you need that classroom also, but virtual is catching up too fast, right? And the 3D, there are so many great tools, right? Zoom is one piece of it, and you can see 3D experience of the facilitator. There's so many things which people are experimenting with. It's a matter of time. So Pujit, it's like, again, transformation, first one, and it's accelerated. It's a matter of time.
And just Sumit, to add, means I have not seen the training hours throughout my career what I have seen in 14 months.
Yes, the reach.
It's really it's mind blowing. Means I have never seen in my career so many training hours, whether it's a virtual, whether it's a e-learning on those things. Never. Yeah. People had a time to catch up on those things. It's going excellent.
Yeah. TED Talks. That's another example, right? They're very entertaining. They engage you very well, right? So they've mastered it. It's about our facilitators will catch up. In fact, they've improved, as I said. Our effectiveness scores are changing very, very fast. So yeah.
So I just want to add to what Sumit and Sudhir have mentioned on this topic. Clearly, I mean, there are two ways of looking at it, right? One is the smaller and medium enterprises. The other is, larger enterprises. Because a smaller enterprise or a startup environment, the investment dollars for training will be very limited. So let's be cognizant of that. In that case, they will not be able to leverage the larger technology platforms today, which are beautiful and available for large corporates, like Degreed as a platform, for instance, or LinkedIn, for instance. There is so much available.
I think, yeah, we lost her.
Okay. So due to the paucity of time, we'll take one last question. It'll be from Miss Anjali from the Ritvi Club, the HR Club of IIM Amritsar. Anjali, can you please go ahead with the question?
Yes. So my question is that we have heard that companies are using gamification techniques in recruitment and selection, as well as in employee engagement and other phases of HR. So is this technique really increasing the productivity? And if it is, how can company integrate gamification in their HR strategy?
So maybe I'll start here. So gamification is an extremely effective tool or strategy. And in fact, it also answers to what Pujit was asking, right? So even if trainers will gamify, the engagement will be up. So, and gamification, what it does is you're also, you're creating a spirit of competition to an extent. So people bring their best to just win. And that's a very human instinct to do that. Second, if the gamification is on the topic and there's a small learning attached to it, whether it's around learning or it's an onboarding you're doing, or you're doing some engagement activity with a certain aspect which you want them to pick up, right? The retention is extremely high. If you look at your apps, right, which we are all hooked to today, right, and they use the gamification behavioral science behind it to ensure that you are hooked to it. All these LinkedIn likes or Facebook likes, or all of that is a small little bit of gamification by itself, right? They use that entire psychology to get you hooked, and they've been very successful, right? You can't compare how we've been hooked even before pandemic to some of these apps, right? So that's the power of that. In fact, to get out of it, it's kind of an addiction actually today, right? It's and some of the, if you want to, there's a lot of research which says that the drugs, right, the new age drugs are some of these gamified apps which actually hook you so badly that you just waste your productive hours in only looking at that, right? So that's how the more effective it is. In fact, we need to catch up a lot more, but it's extremely effective in any area which we've used. That's been our experience.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, I know I said it was the last question, but we have just one more. I think he was like very eager to ask this one. So Varun, can you please go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Subhav. Good evening, sir. My question is, like, as Sudhir sir said, that giving employees the flexibility to work can actually increase the productivity. But like, my doubt is, like, how can we ensure that employees do not undermine this freedom and like start working more instead of, because of the fear of losing their job? So like, how can we ensure that there is no burnout? Because initially there would be like benchmark, like we have to work for 8 hours. But now since it's flexible, there will always be a comparison, right? Like my coworker is working more. So that, how can we ensure like there is no burnout among the employees?
Okay. Yeah. Say everything has. I think it will depend upon the individual also, and mostly on the psyche. Say I know what is my day job, and I need to know why to stop also. And same time, I need to see there are two things. One is a result. Second is an effort. I think I need to focus on the result rather than effort when it comes to working from home or limited hour. The result will make more sense rather than effort. Hence, the time may be flexible. I think most of the company and most of the bosses will be really valuing the result rather than efforts, because mostly it was true, but physical presence in an office used to suffice most of the needs, but that's not going to be true. I'll say whether you work from the office or you work from the home, the end of the day, I need to get desired results. I think that's going to prevail. And the individual have to demark those boundaries. Policing and those things will go off. Means in time, out time, means IT companies, I think Sumit can add to it, and a punch in time, punch out time, and per hour, that seat cost and those things. I don't know, means at least in my industry, it won't be same. I don't know about the IT industry. I think Sumit can put a light on that. It's not going to be.
It's the same thing, right? When went into the work from home scenario, our customers were very worried, right? Because in a lot of business, it's timesheet driven billing also, right? And then there is a lot of, you don't know whether they will work, not work. So that shift has happened to, and that is here to stay. I don't think so anything can change it. Now the question is, once the pandemic is more in control, right? And we've all said that we will start working from office to an extent, and what form and shape it will take, but still it will be only hybrid. It cannot be the same ever what it was 1.5 years back. That shift has happened all of a sudden, right? That is going to remain. But the part which Varun, you were also trying to ask is burnout real? And because the boundary between home, work, and work from home, right? It's kind of just not there. You don't know when to stop, when to start. You've not left office, right? You're still always in office to an extent. And it could be insecurity, as you said, that look, maybe I need to do. So every person reacts in a very different manner. And there is real, again, right? A lot of focus, therefore, has been on digital detox, well-being, and all of the other aspects of it. But even before pandemic, by the way, it was not that it was all hunky-dory, right? Because at that time also we have on our phones all the gadgets, we have laptops, and you will still be tempted to open an answer to those emails, right? Now, the only thing is, that time you were doing a certain set of jobs, right? Because your phone and your laptop is all you need to set it up anywhere, but you were going to office and then coming back. But there was still a psychologically a boundary which was created. But that boundary being broken, now it is even worse. So there was a problem then, and some people were dealing it effectively. Now it's like that everybody needs to is in the same boat, and they need to learn to really deal with it. And it's a big problem. So companies have been saying, and we realize that this is happening, right? We keep telling people that, okay, Fridays, there are a lot of companies have said that, okay, don't have any video calls or any of those calls beyond 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., no team calls, because that's a realization that's happening, right? So the companies are emphasizing that if individuals, right, don't have that boundary to be able to create themselves, if they don't have the capability to switch off, then how do we support? So companies are also recognizing that, and they're also doing the same thing. And most of the IT companies are actually trying to make sure that this doesn't impact the well-being of that individual, because in the longer term, while productivity has shot up right now, it will actually be burnout issues, and there will be more other issues, right? So that's where, but yeah, it's also an individual plus organization is supporting that. But it's a real problem. There is no doubt about it. So like problem solving, how to create that boundary in the new workforce is another thing which individual has to do it for himself or herself.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So that was all the time we had for the Q&A session. Now we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the panel for answering all the questions for the students of IIM Amritsar. Now I would request Mr. Anirudh to present a word of thanks.
Thank you, Subhav. Respected Students Affairs Chairperson, our honorable faculty members, MBC team, and my dear very good evening to all. It is an honor for me to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of Indian Institute of Management, Amritsar. We would like to thank our Students Affairs Chairperson, Professor Kiran Pendyada, for obliging us with his esteemed presence. We would also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Professor Santosh Tiwari and Professor Chetan for guiding the industry interaction cell to uphold the tradition and the structure of Yukti. I propose a hearty vote of thanks to all the panelists for greeting this event with their presence. We believe that this will act as a foundation stone for future collaborations. Thank you all for enlightening us with your knowledge and experience. I am sure the students will benefit from this discussion and will reflect upon this. Furthermore, I thank our exclusive media partner, CNBC TV 18, for covering this event. We all are very grateful to the sponsoring organizations and the media members. I want to extend our gratitude towards the IT team for the smooth functioning of today's event. This event would not have been a resounding success without the seamless efforts of the media and PR cell of IIM Amritsar. We also extend our gratitude to Team Rathvi, the HR club of IIM Amritsar, for setting a relevant context for the event, and merchandising and sponsorship committee for their constant support. Last but not least, I thank the students of MBA 06, MBA 07, MBA HR 01, MBA BA 01, EMBA 01, alumni, and other participants for their constant support, patience, and engagement. Without you all, this event would not have been possible. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and all the best to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks all the students and all the best. Be safe. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Sorry, I
Thank
got
you.
in between. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.